Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we're going to focus on brand identity. We're going to try and understand brand identity from both the perspectives, that is the marketing perspective and the design perspective. And by the close of this video, we're going to try and integrate both the perspectives so that you have a cohesive view of what brand identity is from a marketing as well as a design perspective. From a marketing perspective, brand identity is more than just a logo or a color scheme that you implement. It is a comprehensive expression of what your brand is through the visuals, the verbal, and the emotional elements. It plays a very pivotal role in shaping the perceptions of the brand towards your consumers and in building relationship with your potential as well as current consumers. This is what makes your brand recognizable and memorable in the minds of the consumers, which actually influences the decisions and the loyalty that they have towards your brand. Let's try and understand the components of a brand identity in marketing. When we are talking about marketing and when we are talking about brand identity from a marketing perspective, there are four components that are important: brand voice, brand values and personality, brand promise, and brand positioning. When you're talking about the brand promise, it's mainly about the commitment that the consumers feel towards your brand and what they expect from you. This is what is consistently expected from your brand in terms of your products and your services. Brand values and personality represent the core principles and the characteristics that your brand represents to your consumers. It defines the nature of your brand and it guides your behavior. The brand voice is basically about the marketing communication that your brand implements, and it needs to be consistent throughout all the marketing channels. It needs to have a consistent tone and a consistent style in terms of how it is communicated. When we are talking about brand positioning, it is how your brand differentiates itself from your competitors with a unique selling proposition and how it is relevant to your targeted consumers. Usually, brand positioning is given in terms of a brand positioning map wherein you take certain elements and you try and put yourself, that is your brand, as well as your competitors on the map. For example, here we have tried and represented the brands and their map in terms of axis of quality and price. So what is the importance of consistency in all this? The consistency in your brand identity needs to be there at all your touch points. It is basically something that reinforces your brand, its recognition. It helps in building trust with your consumers, and it ensures that your consumers are resonating with whatever you are trying to communicate with them through any channel that you use. This kind of gives us a idea about what your brand is or what your brand identity is from a marketing perspective. Let's move on to the design perspective and let's try and understand what your brand identity is from a branding and design perspective. From the design perspective, it's about crafting a cohesive visual representation that communicates what your brand's ethos is and which also helps it resonate with the consumer. Just like we talked about the components of brand identity from a marketing perspective, we have similarly four components for brand identity from a design perspective. They are your logo, color palette, typography, and imagery. When you're talking about logo, it's often the first visual representation of your brand. It needs to be distinctive, memorable, and reflective of what your brand's ethos is. Your color palette is very important because colors play a very crucial role in conveying the emotions. Your color palette basically sets the tone for your brand communications. When you're talking about typography, it's the fonts that you're using consistently across all your branding material. It influences the perception of the brand's professionalism and approachability. Lastly, when we talk about imagery, imagery is the style of the photography, the graphics, and the icons that are used by your brand, and they need to align with your brand's personality because that is what helps you tell a story about your brand, and that is what the consumers remember. So what do these elements represent and what do these elements bring together? The brand identity elements from a design perspective help create emotional connections because design is powerful in its ability to evoke emotions. Now, effective brand identity design creates visual as well as emotional resonance with the consumers, helping foster deep connections and loyalty. The emotional connection is actually what turns the first time buyers into lifetime consumers. So, how do you bridge and integrate brand identity from a design and a marketing perspective? What you have seen is that most of the successful brands actually understand that marketing and design are not siloed disciplines, but they're interconnected and they represent different facets of the brand identity. The marketing strategy informs the branding approach, ensuring that the brand resonates with the right audience in the right way. Conversely, how a brand is designed, its logos, color, typography, imagery directly affects the execution of the marketing strategies. An integrated approach to brand identity involves cross-disciplinary teams working collaboratively to ensure that every aspect of the brand, from advertising campaign slogans to design, and the website aligns and tells a cohesive story. This unity strengthens the brand's market positioning and can help enhance the consumer recall and loyalty. In conclusion, what we can say is that a well defined brand identity, when it's viewed from the lens of marketing as well as from design, it's essential in carving out a unique space in the marketplace. It's about communicating who you are, what you stand for, why you exist, and at the same time engage with your customers at both a rational level as well as the emotional level. That is both the logical level and the emotional level. Whether you are a startup who's crafting your brand identity or an established brand which is undergoing a refresh, remember that consistency, coherence, and connection are the keys to your success, especially when you're talking about branding and using branding both in terms of marketing and design. That's all that we have for you in this video. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Do stay tuned in for more. You can read more about it on pallavisegal.com and connect with me on my LinkedIn. Thank you. Stay tuned in.